Good afternoon. My name is David Chernitzky. I'm co-founder of Armour Cybersecurity, and I have today with me is the best privacy professional in Canada, Coode. Hi, Kat.
Hello.
Kat is the owner of Binary Tattoo, but she also works with Armour Cyber as a privacy practice lead. And Kat, thanks for taking time and speaking with me today. So, given this time of COVID, I actually wanted to spend some time and discuss about how we, as cybersecurity privacy professionals, can help people understand technology better in context of COVID-19. We all heard about these tracing applications that helping actually to flatten the curve faster, and some countries like Singapore, Israel, Hong Kong actually heavily use those, and they're showing amazing results.
Yeah.
Funny enough, in Canada, I spoke to quite a few people, and the people are saying, "Oh my God, it's a privacy concern." And Kat, I actually wanted to ask you, what do you think about that as a privacy professional?
Oh, it's a loaded question. All right, so there's a whole bunch of levels to this. The first one I think people need to understand is the sheer amount of information you are giving away on a daily basis from your phone. So if you're using Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, any of these apps, they are pulling your location data likely. They're potentially turning on your camera. They might have your microphone on, listening. Google certainly does. So if you're running any of these apps anyway, you're already giving away more information for less of a cause than what these COVID apps are trying to do. So from a I don't want to give my information away, you're already giving it away. So we kind of need to acknowledge that one. I turned off location tracking on everything I can think to turn it off. And you and I, David, were talking about how I walked into a store once, and then I started getting ads for that store. And I'm like, I can't find the setting that I'm missing. I've turned them all off. So we are giving away the information. Contact tracing is a key part from a health perspective of tracking the spread of the illness and stopping it. We know that. And if you go to a hospital and you are tested, they will say, where have you been? And do you know who you've been in contact with? So the question is already being asked. And what the app does is it facilitates better tracking of where you may have been, and certainly allows us to contact other people. So what we need to understand about the way it is working in places like you said, like Israel, Singapore, Turkey's got it running, is that the technology we're proposing here in North America is anonymous. So I wouldn't get a message that said, you had a meeting with David, and not that we're in person right now, but
I tested negative. By the way, I got my results. I'm negative.
I wasn't saying that. But yeah, it wouldn't say, hey, you had a meeting and David was positive and therefore you should be checked out or you should quarantine. That's not what it says. The data is anonymized. So what happens is if you have the test and it comes back positive, there has to be a way for the hospital to input that positive so that people can't fake it. That's the first part. Then once you're made positive, an anonymous number that's associated with your phone gets tagged. And then that anonymous number gets compared to a whole bunch of other anonymous numbers. And if you have come into contact with one of those anonymous numbers, then they track down where that number is. There is nothing that's stored in the cloud about you or where you've been. It's all on your phone. So essentially your phone says, once in a while, it checks the list. It says, hey, here are the 3 people numbers I've been in contact with. It goes and compares it to the list. The list says, oh, one of those was rated positive, and sends a message back to your phone. So you don't know who that person was. They don't know who you are. And the information about you isn't anywhere other than your phone.
So Kat, you said days linking the number. Who are they? Is it FBI, CC, CIA, or some
well,
other?
Right now it's Apple and Google. Apple and Google are proposing it. So this is, okay, so that's the positive. The reason why people are worried about this data is because it could be used in a negative way. So if Apple and Google, who are coming up with this technology, if they're the ones creating it, could it be hacked? Could someone get into it? Could someone use it the wrong way? And that's the risk. So that becomes the question. But again, our data's already out there. Like, to me, this is not going to be the defining data that someone gets access to. FBI is in your Facebook direct messages and your Instagram direct messages. That to me is far more invasive than I went to the drugstore and the grocery store and came home.
Absolutely, some excellent points, and it happened also to me. You talk about something, and then voila, you have some pop-ups on your phone for ads, that things that you just been thinking about buying, and then they put you in this motion. And also Waze. I'm a heavy user of Waze, and I think at the moment I started to use Waze, I gave up on my privacy. Where did I go, and when where did I go, and when I did go there? So I 100% agree with you, and I think you touched up on this aspect. It's a much bigger benefit here in play. I think I personally wouldn't mind my phone to be tracked, and if we can flatten the curve, and eventually flattening the curve, it's not the purpose. The purpose is preventing more individuals from getting sick, and more people eventually statistically dying, because it's a statistics game here. So.
The other ethical issue that's kind of come up lately is in all the privacy laws, it says your data will be kept private except for the greater good. There's always kind of this clause in all of them that's like, except for the greater good. And in this case, your privacy needs to be respected, but if it's for the greater good of society or the world, there is that element where you do need to share that information. And so one thing that has been going around a little bit is, if you sign up for a company and the company uses even like those tags to get in on the door, like the auto like entrance tags, right? Then that company is clearly recording when you walk in and out of the building. They don't have to have your consent for that. It's implied. So if you work for the company, you have to have this electronic tag key. You have to tag yourself in. You are giving away the information of when you come and go. There's a little bit of that here. If you are a citizen of this country, it's implied consent that we are allowed to know where you've gone in order to help track the disease. So there's a lot of the policymakers right now are weighing pros and cons to saying, you know what, there is a greater good clause in here. What they want to make sure is that people are consenting to give information where consent can be taken. And the other thing that they're pushing right now with new privacy regulations around this is this sunset clause or retention period, which is part of all the privacy regulations. So for GDPR and PEPIDA, we should have them anyway, but especially with this, if let's say the location data, we decide if you haven't seen someone within 25 days, there's no way you're going to catch it from them, then you should be deleting that data. Like once you've hit the point where the data is no longer relevant, there is no legal reason for you to keep it, then you should be deleting that data.
And this is actually a great point. I think consent and doing that voluntarily is a big part of overall effort of all of us as citizens just fight better this terrible disease. And again, I'm going back to Israeli example. They have an app called Hamagen, and eventually this is totally voluntarily. Whoever downloaded it to their phone, only in this case they participate in basically this overall effort of trying to curb the disease. And once person deletes the app from a phone, the data is not held anywhere again against this device or for this person. It's totally anonymized and totally voluntarily application here. So and I think again, looking at the statistics, I just spent a lot of time researching Israeli side, being ex-Israeli. So they're doing great in terms of they have 0 cases for many days in a row right now. So I think it's again a big success for a country that. Not a small country, not a large, but also not a small country. And Kat, just to wrap it up, what is your projection basically going forward? Now it seems like we are coming to the end of the peak and the economy will be reopening. How do you see the next 2 to 3 months, 6 months? What is your opinion here?
I think there's a second wave coming. From what I've seen, where places are opening, there's so many restrictions in place that I think as an individual, we don't appreciate. As a company, if a company is going to open right now, there's a lot of things that have to go in place in order to make that happen. This is not like lifting the gates and letting everyone through. We are definitely at a point where I think, again, contract tracing could really help, right? Because if we come into that second wave, we want to nip that in the bud as soon as it starts, and not after we've opened up a day camp with 500 kids in it.
Or maybe also, to close only parts of the country where a situation requires that, and not just blindly put everyone in quarantine. I agree. That's it. I think, Kat, from my end, again, thank you very much for your time, and it's an interesting topic, and for sure we will talk about it more. And for all our viewers, if you have questions to me, to Kat, comment, reach out to us. You'll have our contact details at the end of the video, and thanks a lot.
Thanks.